Good morning, my name is Tim Meyer, and today I'm going to talk about the display ad of the future. Just to give a little bit about my background, I think one interesting thing is I've been both building ad tech products as a product manager, as well as leveraging ad tech products as a marketer throughout my entire career. I started off at search pioneers doing paid search as well as algorithmic search at people like Inktomi, Fast, Overture, and Yahoo. Some of you may have not heard of many of them because they got acquired. They were around so long ago. And then I've been doing multi-channel marketing on the B2C side, leading the commerce and marketplace properties at Yahoo, and then at Shop at Home, which is a large coupon company. And then on the B2B side at Trueffect, leading multi-channel marketing, as well as at Trada. So I've sort of been leveraging those multiple channels. And I've been through a lot of the different channels, and I, like many search people, was like, display is sort of boring. It's just a banner. Like, how interesting could it be? And now being in it for, it's been about a year, it's a lot more interesting, and it's come a long way since before. And I'd like to sort of talk you through the direction that it's going to go in the coming years. So looking at these three people, you got F. Scott Fitzgerald, you have Salman Rushdie, and you have Joseph Heller. You'd ask people, what do these three people have in common? And what most people would say is they're great novelists. But what most people don't know is they all started their career as copywriters. You've got F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote the tagline, "We keep you clean in Muscatine," for a steam laundry company. We have Salman Rushdie that started at Ogilvy and Mather, and he wrote taglines for American Express, such as "That'll Do Nicely," and for cream cakes of Naughty But Nice that you may have heard of. And then finally, you have Joseph Heller that started a small advertising agency and worked alongside Mary Higgins Clark, who was another famous journalist. So what we see is the art of storytelling is very important from both a novelist perspective and an advertising perspective. And there are two main components. There's resonance and relevance, which are very important to the art of storytelling. We have resonance, which is identifying and appealing to the values that stimulate behavior in users or customers or prospects. And then we've got relevance, which is largely based on your interests and demographics. In the early days of advertising, when we were looking at print, we were looking at television and radio, resonance was very important because the response was typically offline. As we move forward with the dawn of the internet, we've seen that pendulum swing more towards the relevance side. We saw the dawn of the internet come by and the promise of measurement. And we saw the king of the lower funnel, search, where there was very predictable click-through and conversion along with that. So what we've seen is Google with the quality score and all of that with advertising, we've seen that pendulum swing away from resonance and more towards the realm of relevance. We can see in storytelling right now, our ads are very divided. We have resonance, we have this American Apparel ad. They do very edgy advertising. This is actually one of the cleaner ones that they offer. But their sort of vision is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they put edgy characters in there. They use no airbrushing. And they're very direct in their advertising. And that's led them to be one of the top trusted brands out there with their demographic. They've also, to appealing to values that stimulate behavior, they did their Engage LA campaign where they got behind things like Prop 8 as well as immigration reform. And they've really resonated with their audience in this way. On the other side, we have relevance. These are ads that showed up on the right side of Facebook. I thought they were pretty relevant for Facebook. I go up skiing in Beaver Creek. Our family has horses, and then I use Comcast. So this is CenturyLink trying to steal me away. And so, but you can see there's very few ads these days which are actually combining both of those. And that's one of the directions I see advertising going these days. So one example, storytelling with resonance. I'm going to show you a short clip from Robinson's, which was a drink manufacturer in England. I grew up in London, and this was something that, a brand that we engaged with. And I just wanted to show this to you to show you an example. Can you please play the video? So I think that's a great example of sort of telling a cool story in a short amount of time, but it also appeals to people, you know, when they were kids, that they used to act like this and drink Robinsons, but you also have that parent-child relationship in the story, and it appeals to those sort of values in human beings and resonates strongly with the brand. You know, lately we look at a lot of people out here, and how many of you would think you were data marketers out here? Raise your hand. How many people think they're brand marketers here? So probably a few fewer. I see there's a huge divide between brand marketers and data marketers and how they look at success of campaigns. And recently there was this insurance ad, which many people saw, that took place at the end of the Super Bowl. And they said, we're going to save money by doing this after the Super Bowl ended. And living in the Denver area, I think it was over about 1 minute in. But you know, basically, I saw brand marketers and data marketers look at, one said this is really successful, and the other side said this was sort of a failure on some methods. We saw 2.6 billion impressions of the hashtag during this commercial. We saw 500 people, it was over 5 million people using it and 2 billion impressions. The followers were 161,000 followers. So when you took 1.5 million and you divided that by the 160,000, you got a cost per follow of $5.75. So on the data-driven side, people said, well, this is a failure because no one pays almost $6 per follower, and that's not good performance. But on the brand side, people said, wow, this is a huge win across TV and the internet, and just the amount of people that were shown the brand, this was like, this is one of the largest successes of the Super Bowl, I think, from many people's perspective. I think going forward, what we need to address is we need to bring success metrics together and look from a relevance and a brand and a data perspective so we can have a unified way of looking at campaign success so we're not always at odds with each other, and a way to measure resonance as well as relevance and look at different forms of engagement as a success of ads going forward. There are two ways, one inside the organization and one outside the organization, that's really causing us to have problems with measurement. The first, as many people know, people are actually executing campaigns and measuring campaigns in silos and organizations, and they're all trying to get more spend for their particular channel, measuring things in different ways, in imperfect ways, trying to trigger things at the bottom of the funnel so they can get more funds from their organization. Externally, we see ad measurements a mess. Largely, this is being driven by third-party cookies, which are measuring out there. They have several problems. One, many browsers don't accept them. We've got security programs deleting cookies every 5 to 7 days on average. We have users now using 4 to 6 devices on average, being mobile, work PC, home PC, tablets. And in many of our campaigns at Trueffect, we're seeing a reach of about 2.5 billion people in the US. And as we know, there's only about 320 million people in the US right now. So what that means is that all of these reach numbers are hugely inflated. So when you start to look at other metrics such as frequency and site overlap and other main marketing metrics, you're really seeing it divided by 6 or divided by 8. And so many of your users are actually seeing 6 to 8 times the impressions that you think they're seeing. And so this is causing us to not to be able to string together all touches across different channels, because you can't see people as a user. What you're seeing them is a single cookie on a single device. And I know a lot of companies are working to try and fix this problem with fingerprinting and other sorts of algorithms. But right now, many of those players still only have 40 to 80% accuracy with trying to improve this measurement. So what we'd like to move to is obviously looking at telling a story with all touches of the brand, so we can properly attribute the different touches to a particular conversion. Basically right now, so many people are using last click attribution. A lot of people are using Ushape attribution, which I think is a lot better, which is giving the most credit to the introduction to the brand and then to the purchase, to the one right before purchase. and then you optimize the middle, all the conversions sort of in between. You figure out which ones are actually most beneficial to you, and the ones that are a waste, you try and drive that cost out of the system. Most of you are probably doing paid, earned, and owned media. You got paid media like paid search or paid Facebook. You've got owned, which is your landing pages and your site. And then you've got earned media, which is things that are off your site, maybe on LinkedIn, social posts, bylines, etc. Paid and owned media are actual media. I would say that most earned media isn't really media because you can't really measure it right now. An example of this, our company might do a byline on Ad Exchanger. We drive a lot of traffic through social to that byline. But we have no idea of how many views it got, how many we drove to that article, how many links got emailed to other people through what different channel. And so moving forward, I think it's going to be very important as earned media becomes more and more important. I think many people have talked about that today, that we get that into that stream and get that into that customer journey so we can give credit in the right places as that earned media is becoming more and more powerful in the customer journey. This is there's a company called IDindra. We don't really have an affiliation with them, but they're doing some cool things. They're actually looking across, getting a 360-degree profile of a user, and they're looking at structured and unstructured information. So they're actually monitoring user across all social channels. And one of the big differences they're doing is they're actually looking at sentiment, so they can figure out how excited someone is about a particular product and give that a score. So you can see where they are from this sentiment on the customer journey and advertise appropriately when you move through the funnel. So as I talked about earlier, people last night at dinner were saying, oh, you're going to talk about display, we're search people, why, this is so old school. And, I can see most people think of display as contextual buys. If you were E-Trade, you said, I have to be on Yahoo Finance, and you would buy it like real estate with a rate card. Things have moved a lot further than that, and a lot of this is due to the growth of data, and this is the amount of data that people have on users. And there are three different types of data in the display world. The first is first-party data. This can be offline, online. This is typically CRM databases or things people do on the actual site. And it's typically proprietary. A certain site owns that data. And then we have second-party data. The sort of old-school way of thinking about this in search was when when someone did a search on Google and went to your site, Google would pass you their first-party data, which was the keyword query, and they would pass that over to you, and that would end up as second-party data on your site. And this can also be a travel company and a finance company exchanging first-party data so they can create a 360 profile of the user so they can better target that user. And then third-party data. This is largely aggregated data and inferred. Many of the people collecting third-party data are companies you've never heard of, but they have a lot of information about different people. And so what they do is they track you going to a site like Edmunds, a car site, and they say, well, this person went to a car site, they're probably 5 to 10x more likely to buy a car in the next month than someone that hasn't gone to a car site. So when you target users, you can use this data to get better people into your funnel. And that's what the third-party data is largely used for. And then the first-party data is used largely when you're in the funnel. So now, with all of this data, we're moving to buying audiences. So instead of buying contextually someone that's going to Yahoo Finance, you're saying, I want to buy people with these demographics and these psychographics, right? Interests and just income level, et cetera. And you take a whole bunch of these and you put them, you try and drive them into your funnel. Recently, we've had, Google's been really pushing programmatic with a lot of other players. Programmatic is really almost like taking the paid search model where people are bidding and moving it into display, moving away from that contextual buy. So a specific impression might come up on Yahoo Finance and everyone gets to bid on it. So everyone has different pieces of first-party, second-party, and third-party data, and they're going to value that impression at a different price. So everyone throws in their bid in a sub-second time frame, and whoever has the highest bid gets to bid for that user and gets to serve the impression. So once you get people in the funnel, we move from buying an audience to going one-to-one, from a one-to-one marketing perspective, and we're looking at what we call creative decisioning. One of the big things in retail is you go into a store, it's figuring out, is this someone we know about? Is this someone who's never been in our store before? Or is this someone who's been in our store that we know something about? And so with first-party data and using cookies, we can actually say, oh, this person's unknown. We're going to give them a very top-of-the-funnel ad to just try and drive them into the site. Or this person's a lapsed visitor under 30 days or over 30 days, so we might give them a different creative that might perform better. And then if we know more data about users, like location or product, we might give them a different ad that would convert a lot better. So I think once you're in the funnel, creative decisioning becomes a lot more important, and cross-selling and upselling. So what's next? What are people doing now? There are three sort of interesting, exciting things I've seen. One is people are starting to use iBeacons. As you may have read, Apple has been using them in their stores for some time. But Alex and Ani, the jewelry store, they've started using iBeacons. So both from an acquisition perspective as well as in the funnel. So when people are around the general vicinity of the store, they'll give them an alert to try and come into the store. And they're seeing about a 72 to 74% engagement rate on those application alerts, which is pretty interesting that they're able to sort of drive a lot of traffic into the store. And then when users come in, they're able to do that in-funnel analysis. Is this someone who's never been in our store? Let me give them a discount to try and get them to make their first purchase. And this gives us first-party data on the user so we can actually cross-sell and upsell them in the future. So that discount can actually be paid for because you're buying a first purchase and you're buying first-party data about that user, which will help you make all that money back further on down the line. Another thing is opt-in to offers. I mean, obviously now offers, looking at a lot of research when I worked at Yahoo Shopping, people don't see offers as advertising. They see it as content. So when you're opting in to receive deals with brands that you connect with, this is something that obviously is very, you get permission, so there's more engagement, and then you know that user is interested. Finally, there's viral pull ads as entertainment. I think many people probably saw this. This was a Pepsi Max commercial with Jeff Gordon where he basically posed as someone trying to test drive a car and took the guy on a crazy hell ride. And what was interesting about this was not just the first commercial, which got a lot of people viewing it as entertainment, talking about it, but after that initial wave stopped, a famous car critic came out and said, oh, it was a fake. So then there was a whole second wave of discussion and views based on people looking at it saying, is this real or is this fake? And I think about 3 weeks ago, they came out with a follow-up where they pranked the car critic that said it was fake. And he got in a cab and Jeff Gordon was driving and took him for a crazy ride, and then at the end they pulled into a Pepsi Max sort of warehouse. But it was a very interesting entertainment ad because it actually started in the video, but it took things to another level across the press, and then all that discussion about if it was real or if it was fake. So I think entertainment, ads as entertainment, where people are seeking out the ads is going to become more and more real as we move into the future. And this is him as Jeff Gordon as a cab driver. If you hadn't seen, you should watch the videos because they're sort of interesting to just as entertainment and make your choice up whether you think they're real or fake. We had a big debate at the office on that before we came out. So just to wrap up, I think moving forward in display, I think the art of storytelling is going to be more important. I think we're going to move the pendulum. It moved from resonance over to relevance. I think we're going to see it moving back more in the middle between resonance and relevance. I think we need to find a way to measure the success across brand and data marketers and find a common metric of success so we can look at esurance ads in a very similar way. And we also need to frame that customer story so we can integrate earned media and make it a real type of media that can actually be measured in the customer journey, just as paid and earned media can. Well, thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it.